Hey everyone, welcome to the Slice of Healthcare podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. Joining me today is the CEO of Salubrum, Osama Usmani. How's it going?
Hey Jared, thanks for having me.
Excited to have you here. This is not a topic that we typically talk about on the podcast, so I'm very excited. Not for a while. I told you a while back we had someone from that Aster DM Healthcare that talked about parts of it, but they were not doing. They were just a health system overseas. They were not doing what you're doing. So
Yeah,
let's start off with assume someone has never heard of Salubrum. What do you tell them? What do you do? Why did you decide to start this?
yeah, absolutely. So Salubrum is really on a mission to evangelize the North American healthcare system to medical tourism. And I use the word system on purpose because for us, like it encapsulates obviously the patients and their experience, but the payers in the space, obviously North America, but also the providers. In AstraDM, as you kind of mentioned, are simply just kind of one part of that with the providers kind of aspect that they bring. So yeah, here at Salubrum, we look at things a little bit differently than a lot of the industry. We genuinely believe, like fundamentally believe, that medical tourism could be a golden ticket to kind of make a dent in the effects that or the physician shortage is causing, plus just the extra demand from people in general on the healthcare system. We don't think that this kind of tug of war is going to go away anytime soon. If anything, get worse. We'll see kind of what happens after November, just as an example. But yeah, so we looked at this and we said, hey, the only thing that we think that can actually make a dent in this or cause some change is if we kind of bring this industry of medical tourism that is pretty resilient. I got to say, Jared, like it's been around for a very long time. We're not creating it. We don't have to teach people to do it. But if we can make some digital tools to make the patient experience a little bit easier, make some policy infrastructure and payment infrastructure so the payers and providers can start to communicate a little bit better, you know, we think that we can kind of cause a change in the industry for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because you and I were talking about this a little bit before. A lot of people's thought when they hear medical tourism is it still goes to the cosmetic side of things, right? Like you go to
Yeah,
Colombia for some sort of plastic surgery or something like that, right? But a big part of it is for these other procedures that aren't just cosmetic. And the cost is like for the quality of care that you get plus the cost that you're seeing, it is substantial, right? Like
yeah,
if there was an ROI on the surgery you were getting, you would definitely be experiencing more of an ROI. With some of
exactly.
these other. So like, talk me through this though. What type of procedures are outside of cosmetic, right? What
Yeah.
type of procedures are you seeing become more commonplace through medical tourism?
Yeah, I think for a lot of folks, again, you're absolutely right. They think about cosmetics. That really is just a byproduct of the fact that it's all a cash pay model. However, we think headwinds are turning in a way again that payers want to kind of get into the space. And fundamentally, why they would kind of want to do that, our kind of hypothesis is just like how patients are risking their lives. A lot of times, like we hear the bad press around medical tourism historically, but just like how patients are risking their lives to capture that 30 to 60% savings, just like that, the payers also kind of want to do that and pocket the change. So if we can kind of create the infrastructure that allows them to send their beneficiaries over a state or international border, we think that's going to be a big deal, saving them on their bottom line, of course, but reducing deductibles, reducing wait times, which is only going to be helping patients. And I will add, Jared, as well. 1.9 million Americans. I think the figure is actually 1.4 million Americans in 2017 alone had conducted some form of medical tourism. So this is something that's already happening. Patients know about it, but they hear about it from like their cousin or their aunt. Payers know about it. They know their beneficiaries go in, but the data never comes back. That relationship isn't cohesive. So again, we're not teaching anyone to do this. We're just trying to make it easier.
Do you ever see people kind of align some sort of procedure with, like, if it's a minor procedure,
Absolutely.
for instance, like, hey, we're going to
Yeah.
go on vacation, but while we're there, we're also going to,
100%.
get this procedure done?
No, 100%. Like medical tourism is a very large industry. And just to provide listeners some context, because it is a little bit esoteric, but different geos and different regions will kind of specialize almost in different procedures. So the Brazilian butt list that you hear, for example, there is some truth to that. Like, the state has sponsored facilities that seem to specialize around certain procedures. Costa Rica has their own things. The Cayman Islands have their own thing. When we see, for Salubrum, our provider base that we're starting from is in Europe. And the types of procedures that you're going to see there are more IVF, for example, rather than dental. Dental, you'll see more in South America, Mexico, that sort of thing. So for sure, the types of procedures that you're going to find are going to vary. And obviously the types of patients are going to vary as well. So somebody going to Europe might be looking for maybe some sort of stem cell therapy, an IVF procedure, especially in the States. It's such a kind of touchy subject, things like that. But, there is a whole other space where you're looking at just the traditional cosmetic items, the dentals, and, usually people will travel a little bit less for those and just go down south.
And you'll still have like there will still be a cosmetic piece, right, to what you're building.
Yeah, exactly. So, the way I look at it is we look at it from where the payments are coming from. And if you're swiping a credit card or if you're swiping some sort of a health card, we don't mind. We want to kind of be able to help out everyone. I should say to start off with, we kind of came into the space of medical tourism because, we analyzed all of healthcare, obviously. And we kind of felt that this was one of the last blue oceans in healthcare. You can't really do primary care as an early stage startup unless you got some of these key contracts. It's a very saturated space. Medical tourism was definitely a space that the lack of infrastructure kind of was an opportunity for us. Um, so yeah, as we kind of come into the space, we're kind of helping build some of that infrastructure actively.
Now, I know you've built up some good partners too to help you on your mission. Talk us through some of these partnerships and why they make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So Salubrum is pretty young. Obviously, this is kind of like our first real year in business here in Troop 2024. We are pre-launch as well. We're kind of building more than we are kind of selling at this point. But we've had some great partnerships and supporters. So just as an example, the first client that we brought on, our first provider client, is called Quirón Salud. They're the largest private healthcare provider in all of Spain, the second largest in all of Europe. They, definitely are kind of a champion client for us, kind of believing in us as a team more than, some sort of shiny new app because, we hadn't built one at the time. In terms of like even our North American distribution system, how are we, reaching and creating those patient links here in North America? We've partnered with Definitive Healthcare. They recently launched a product with us called Population Intelligence. So we're leading kind of the distribution when it comes to medical tourism in North America, in the same way that Mayo or Cedars has done in the past. We're doing so fresh for our kind of vertical. And, we have some great media partners. Out of LA, there's a management company called Artest Management Group, founded and run by a former NBA player and Los Angeles Laker, Metta World Peace. I don't know if you're a big basketball guy, Jared, but he used to play with Kobe back in the day. They, I think, won in '08, if I remember correctly. But he's an older man now, and he's very kind of active in the startup space. He has a holding company with a bunch of other companies that he has in his portfolio, and he took a chance on us. And the way that we again look at it from with his perspective and with his help is just trying to make a consumer play about this. We call ourselves at Salubrum kind of like the Expedia for medical tourism. We do that on purpose because there really is no Expedia for medical tourism today. There's no trusted portal for patients. And we think if we can kind of fill that gap, medical tourism will just become a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more easy to navigate.
I love it. What's kind of next? So you said obviously you're in building mode, which I totally respect that, and that's some of the most fun parts of the whole process. Um, what's next for you? What are kind of priorities as we head into the end, which is scary to say, the end of 2024? Where did the year go? And then as we head into 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. So we literally incorporated when I was finishing exams at the University of Ottawa over Christmas of 2023. started with an accelerator here in Toronto called Next Canada. A little bit of a plug-in for my country, but Next is like definitely, I don't know, one of the more prestigious accelerators, I guess you could say, kind of like the Y Combinator of Canada. So we just finished up with them over August, been working with them over 2024. And as you mentioned, just trying to finish up our MVP here, get ourselves to market. But I think the part that I'm most excited about is we have, mentioning our partnership with Definitive, we started to build ICP models out of Definitive Healthcare's data, which, you know, other parts of healthcare, other verticals have been able to build these models, long time ago, and have been leveraging these models in their B2C marketing efforts, in their B2B marketing efforts. They leverage these very, very well, but our vertical just doesn't have them. And we're the first in our vertical at Salubrum to partner with a company like Definitive, who again helped leaps and bounds with other private institutions like Mayo and Cedars. They're working with us now. So, I think the most exciting part for me is, this data play of making some of these ICP models, really finding out the types of Americans and the types of consumers and patients that could leverage medical tourism in a granular way. And, then we can go ahead and start to serve them. Yeah, I just say that to summarize here. It's, even if I am a tech founder or whatever, it's not lost on me that people are going to be working with Salubrum because they need a knee replacement, or they need IVF, not because we have a shiny new app. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit more excited about our distribution kind of efforts, rather than just the fact that we're building something cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would say where the true advantage will be these distribution partners for you, and then how you integrate those into the app in time, right? More than
Exactly.
anything, because at the end of the day, if it's it's like building a beautiful looking car. If that doesn't have an engine, like, you can sit in it,
It's not going to go anywhere.
but it's not gonna get it's not gonna get you anywhere.
You
So
could
these
crack the AC
distribution
and sit there, though.
so I mean, which a lot of people would still do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, in the early days when you're building the product, sometimes it is nice to sit back and be like, this is clean, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all the additional hard work has to
I do
follow.
think
But
being part of Next, the accelerator I mentioned, was really helpful for that, because you're absolutely right. I didn't even want to start building anything until all the paperwork, I guess you could say, was in line. But yeah.
yeah, and what did they do? Did they push you to
It,
to was it a little of both?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally just that mindset. There really is a culture, comes from SF, I guess, but this, founder culture, tech bro culture of, as you said, build things and then market it later or whatever. I think accelerators that really kind of excel, or help companies accelerate, are the ones like Next that say, hey, don't put the cart before the horse. Figure out how to do your distribution. Figure out how you're going to actually engage with people and get these customers, and then go build a product. Once you know that you can actually engage those people. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think those kind of business fundamentals, that sounds so simple, but I know there's a lot of hype in the space, and we just want to make sure we're doing things correctly.
This is something I noticed a lot with investors, right? Like, I think we need to value a well thought out distribution strategy and core partners
Oh,
even
100%.
before products out there, because you'll talk to some investors, right? And they're going to want both. They're going to want to see your distribution, and they're going to want to see this beautiful app. And I think, especially with where AI is at today, it is like your distribution and your strategy more than even like, because the
Yeah,
app and everything can even be built at a faster pace, right? Like,
exactly.
if that information is not really, really clear and concise, that'll end up tripping you up more than the app will, right? So I think we need to continue as investors. If you're listening, PSA, let's
Look,
applaud the distribution strategy even more so than maybe we even have in years past.
if I could plug in one thing, especially for the investors out there that are listening, we talk a lot about product market fit, which is a great kind of framework, but I do think is a little, maybe not naive is the word, but a little simple. At Next, we learned a model called PMMC, which is product market model in channel. in all four of those elements kind of have to fit. So yeah, just for the investors out there, as you guys kind of analyze different companies and things like that, just take a look at that four-dimensional structure written by Brian Balfour out of Stanford, I want to say, versus just kind of the 2D structure.
I love it. Well, I look forward to future conversations with you. And what's that? Are you doing a raise anytime soon? Like any last minute shout outs you want to do before we wrap up here?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a little early for us to raise. We just want to kind of put our head down and build a little bit more. You can find me on LinkedIn at Osama Usmani, of course. We are welcoming some angels, have already started this fall. So if you guys want, you can definitely get involved. But otherwise, you can kind of rest assured we'll do a raise most likely closer to summer of next year.
Awesome. Well, best of luck to you and look forward to future conversations.
Thanks, Jared.